trial of the century. But before we get to that trial, our next speaker, who I'm thrilled to bring up to the stage, he is the founder and president of the Convention of the States Foundation and Convention of States Action. Put your hands together for Mark Meckler, everybody. It's incredible to follow James O'Keefe on this stage because the man is a warrior. Am I right? Are we at war? Yeah, we're actually at war, and this is not a popular thing to say, and it's an important thing that James understands. James and I have been friends for a long time. We talk about this all the time. There's actually a war going on in America. And there's a war between two visions in America and two visions for America, and that war is between people who believe that this country was founded on principles that are good and righteous and eternal, and that we should work to strive towards those principles and preserve this country based on those principles, and people who believe that this country is fundamentally evil. James is attacking people who believe that this country is fundamentally evil. And I want to talk to you tonight about something fundamentally evil that happened that I found myself in the middle of unexpectedly. How many of you were part of the Parler Revolution? January 6th takes place. How many people signed up for Parler? Okay, so a bunch of you signed up for Parler, and we signed up for Parler. I was one of the people who signed up for Parler because we knew that Twitter was censoring us. And we knew that Facebook was censoring us, and a lot of us have been really frustrated by this. Those of us who run large organizations, we watch our traffic get throttled, we watch the numbers go down, we know the shadow bans are taking place, they won't tell us what the algorithms are, we never know exactly what's true and what's not true, but we do know they're censoring us. Anybody here doubt that they're censoring us? Alright, I didn't think, if you doubt that they're censoring us, you probably don't belong in this room. So they're censoring us. This is going on. We know this is going on. So after January 6th, a mass exodus takes place, and a whole bunch of people go sign up for Parler because Parler is an alternative, and Parler is a company that says that they're going to operate according to First Amendment boundaries only. And what they mean by that, and this is true, I found this to be true having been inside Parler at the top of Parler, that what they believe in, stunningly, is a First Amendment standard. Something that's not so popular nowadays in the United States of America. They actually believe in free speech. They actually say that if you can say it in the public sphere, if you can go out on the street and say it legally, it may not be popular, it may not be friendly, it may not be easy to read, but they're going to let you say it on Parler. You know why? Because they have this amazing idea at Parler that you're an adult and you can decide what you want to read or not read. You can decide what kind of feeds you want to subscribe to. It's your feed, your way, it's your data. You own it. They believe in data sovereignty. So they have this alternative model, right, to Twitter and Facebook. The model is a free speech model. And there's a second piece of the model that was really important to Parler, which is they don't monetize your data. They don't see you as a human being, as a commodity. They don't believe that they own you. They don't believe that they own your traffic, your data, your private information. They believe that that belongs to you. These two things, the idea of free speech, really unfettered free speech online, and the idea that you have data sovereignty are a fundamental threat to the tech oligarchy. See, the tech oligarchy believes that they own you. You're just a commodity, you're not a human being, your data, your X's and O's, your bytes and bits, that's all you are to them. And you, all of us collectively, we represent billions and now in market value, literally trillions of dollars to these companies. It's unbelievable. These companies have a greater market valuation than many of the countries around the world. They are immensely powerful. So they believe they own you and your data. So the idea that there could be a competitor coming up, ultimately Parler had 21 million subscribers, there could be a competitor coming up that isn't monetizing data was very threatening to them. The second thing, and you all know this, I'm going to say something, I'm going to state the obvious, the tech oligarchy is perfectly aligned with the radical American left today. And I want to be very careful about how I define the radical American left. Sometimes I get accused of being hyperbolic. I speak too aggressively. I've had people criticize me, but I'm going to say it, I'm going to keep saying it because it's true. Just like James, I'm going to tell the truth, even if it hurts. And the truth is that the radical left in America today is nothing less than fascist. They're nothing less, that's right. They are actually fascists. Benito Mussolini described fascism. He's the founder of fascism. He said fascism is everything in the state, nothing outside of the state, and nothing against the state. This is certainly where the radical left is coming from in America today. The federal government should do everything, cradle to grave. There's nothing that should be outside their purview. They should control whether you can be vaccinated, whether you have to put a face diaper on your face, what kind of car you drive, what kind of gas you put in your car, what kind of paint is on the walls of your house, and God forbid, they control what kind of toilet you have in your bathroom. This is total fascism. What's unique in the modern era right now is that tech oligarchs have put this third piece in place that Mussolini talked about, which is nothing against the state. The public square used to be a stage. It used to be an actual soapbox in the town square. You could stand up, you could speak to the people in your town, people would pay attention if you had good ideas. You got high tech, right? They gave out pamphlets, the pamphleteers. On a large scale, there might be 100,000 copies of a pamphlet printed on a very large scale. 10,000 was huge. And so that's how people communicated. But today, if you can't communicate technologically, if you can't communicate on social media, if you can't get your message out on the internet, you cannot communicate. You will be unpersoned. They can make you cease to exist. So one day I texted a friend of mine after I saw Parler went down. I texted the person who was the main money person behind Parler, a great American patriot named Becca Mercer, and I said, do you need help? And I think a lot of times when people in our movement, libertarians, conservatives, we get attacked, nobody comes to our defense. We feel like justice will take its course. Well, that's not true. We have an injustice system, not a justice system. And so if you feel like if you see somebody get attacked, I'm going to tell you, go to their defense. Assume their innocence. Assume they've been set up. Assume it's a hit job. Go to the fight. Do what James said. Get involved. Be involved. And I made that call that day. And I said, can I help? And she said yes. And through a series of events that's too bizarre and complicated and convoluted to describe, one day I found myself and I was the CEO of Parler. Now that's a thankless job. It's the middle of a firestorm. Parler's been taken off the web. They've lost their web hosting. They've lost their domain registration. They've lost everything. They've been erased. They've been unpersoned. 21 million people who were there online lost their home. And for some crazy reason, I volunteered to try to help get them back online. And it's a long story. I don't have enough time to tell you the whole story, but ultimately we did get them back online. But along the way, I learned some very dangerous and scary things. And I'm here to tell you some bad news, unfortunately. There's good news. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. But the bad news is they can, and they will, and they are going to erase you. And when I say you, yeah, I mean you. I mean you, I mean all of us. Anybody who speaks against the machine, anybody who speaks against the oligarchy, anybody who speaks against the powers that be, anybody who speaks against Facebook or Twitter or Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or the radical left or CRT or any of this madness, they're going to erase you. It's not if. The question is when. The question is how hard do they come down? How fast do they come down? How do they do it to you? Do they cause you to lose your job? Do they humiliate you in your community? Do they try to get your kids and you removed from your school? Those are the only questions. It's the methodology. It's not whether it's going to happen. This is happening in our society today. We're not moving towards Marxism in the United States of America. We live in a system of American Marxism. That's where we live right now. The Marxists are among us. The Marxists are in the White House. The Marxists are running the Senate. The Marxists are running the House of Representatives. The Marxists are running most of the major cities in the United States of America, and we better wake up, and we better do something about it. This is a war, and you are their target. And right now, it's not a shooting war, it's not a hot war, it's what we call a Cold War, a civil war, a societal war. Parler was one of the biggest symbols. President Trump, another big symbol. You can erase the sitting president of the United States of America from the internet. That is extraordinary. You can erase your biggest competitors from the internet. That is extraordinary. And I can tell you, we have collected thousands and thousands of stories of regular people just like you and me who have also been erased from the internet, whose credits have been destroyed, whose bank accounts have been seized, who've been locked out of just the regular life. Montesquieu warned us about this, that they would get us not by actually just attacking us openly, but they would exclude us from a society of polite men. And that's where we are today. We're being excluded from society. Now the good news is we can do something about it. We can be safe, we can be smart, we can build an alternative infrastructure, and this is really important. Don't let people scam you when they tell you I've got an alternative infrastructure for you. I've got hosting that's safe. I've got credit card processing that's safe. This stuff's very complicated, but we can and we must do this. We have to be involved in the fight, individually and collectively. You know, I said a word that is not a good word at a libertarian event. I said collectively, right? We're individualists. We believe in the power of individualism, but if we don't link arms, if we don't put our differences aside, if we don't stand together and build an alternative infrastructure of people who believe in the goodness of this country, we will lose this fight. America and our liberty and our freedom are not inevitable. We have an attitude, I think it's been bred probably 1950s on forward, that we are inevitable. That America as a powerful nation, America as a free nation, America where you can speak your mind, where you can do the things you believe, where you can be left alone to live your life. We have this feeling we were raised in a country where that seemed inevitable. It's not inevitable anymore. We're on the edge. And I believe we're riding a razor's edge right now. Parler is an example of this. President Trump is an example of this. All these people James O'Keefe showed you are examples of this. And this is the razor's edge. I believe that on the positive side of the razor's edge is the greatest renaissance human history has ever seen. We can look back at the Renaissance, will be nothing compared to this Renaissance. What technology has allowed us to do in our pockets, we carry the entire compendium of human knowledge, medical science progressing, the exploration of the stars progressing. It's incredible what we're able to do. Maybe approaching the singularity. It's absolutely unbelievable, the technology and what we're able to do. And on the other side of the razor, the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages. I'm not exaggerating when I say the Dark Ages. We're headed into squalor, we're headed into disease and deprivation, we're headed into totalitarianism, we're headed into tribalism, we're headed into a time where people make war against each other technologically. We have existential enemies within, inside of our own country, who would shackle us, who would put us in bondage, who would lock people like you up. This sounds extreme, and I'll tell you, I just a little bit of history here. So I've been involved in politics 11 years. I grew up in Los Angeles. I know this seems incredible now, but in law school I had a blue mohawk. Tells you a little bit about who I am and where I come from. And so I get along with everybody. And I like everybody, I'm friendly with everybody, I can deal with people with different political opinions. And I used to think that my political opponents, that people who didn't believe like me, people who didn't have more of a libertarian or conservative ideal set, that they were just good people who were misguided. I have a different perspective today. Things have changed in this country. Some of you may have friends on the progressive left. And I'm going to say something that's really harsh about those people, and I apologize if you have people you love that are from this political persuasion, but I'm going to tell you what they would do. When you get taken away, when they come to your house, when they knock on your door, when the FBI shows up and they handcuff you, and they take you away and they put you in the modern equivalent of the American gulag, what those friends and what those family members who've been brainwashed by all this leftist madness, who believe in censorship, who believe in government control, who believe in cradle to grave, what they will say is they will shake their heads sadly and they will say, it's really too bad that Sue had to have all those ideas. And they had to take her to that place, because if she just wouldn't have said those things, if she wouldn't have just posted those things, then she wouldn't have had to go to the gulag. That's what they're going to say. They're not going to stand up for you. The only people who are going to stand up for you are you and me. And the key is, we have to stand together. We watched this happen. We watched the First Amendment under assault. We watched what happened to President Trump. We watched what happened to Parler, and I can tell you it's happening to tens of thousands of other people around the country. This is really important. Benjamin Franklin said that we have to hang together, or we will most surely hang separately. This is where we live in the United States of America today. There are solutions. There are things we can do. There are ways that we can engage in the war. You can support what James is doing with Project Veritas. You can get involved. What can you do? I'm the president of Convention of States. We are working to call a convention to take power away from the federal government and give it back to the states, so that you can drive that home in your own states, so that you can take control. If you want to know more about that, I'll be back here 11:30 tomorrow. I'll be doing a breakout session talking about Convention of States. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for being warriors in the fight for liberty. Appreciate you guys. Meckler, everybody. Clap up for him.